Alright, today guys, I'm going to show you guys how to set up Ubuntu 13.10 64-bit on your 64-bit Windows operating system. The first thing you want to do is go to virtualbox.org and download the application. If you go to VirtualBox, I'll have the links in the video. Click on Downloads. Download it for your Windows host located here. Click this link. It will download the file. Install it to your desktop. Oracle VirtualBox. I'm not going to bore you with the details. You want to run as administrator, hit next. It is going to ask you to install some device drivers. You want to hit yes. Then you're going to want to go to Ubuntu.com, which is a free operating system. You can run two operating systems together. You can run Ubuntu, which is a Linux OS, which is very user friendly. It's a free operating system, doesn't cost you any money. You go to Ubuntu.com, download desktop. You can download their major release or the new feature, which I will show you, 13.10. And I downloaded a 64-bit flavor already. Click on Download Ubuntu. It's about 900 megabytes in size. It's a pretty big size download. You want to go ahead and get that. And then once you do that, you'll go ahead and once you install your VirtualBox, you'll double-click your Oracle VirtualBox. You'll click on New, and then you can call it you can just call it whatever you want. You can just call it's a Linux box basically. So what you're doing is going to be, you want to select the Linux type, and you want to make sure, very, very important guys, if you download the Ubuntu 64-bit, make sure you select 64-bit. The 32-bit, make sure you select 32-bit. I downloaded 64-bit, so I want to make sure I select the correct operating system. I can even, name it to Ubuntu. Call it Ubuntu. You'll go ahead and hit next. Right here you will calculate how much RAM you want to give the VM. I have currently 12 gigs of RAM on my machine, and I know I'm not using very much, so I'm going to go ahead and give it about 4 gigs, a little more than 4 gigs. 4 gigs of RAM. This is in megabytes, guys, so make sure you give it more than 512 megabytes. That's half a gig of RAM. That's not enough RAM to run a VM fast. It's going to be really slow and laggy. So you want to give it as much RAM as you can spare. If you have 4 gigs of RAM, maybe give it a gig. If you have 6 gigs, give it 2 gigs. If you have more than 8 gigs, I'd recommend giving it almost half unless you're using it elsewhere. So I have 12 gigs. I have extra RAM to spare, so I will give it extra RAM. So I'll click next, and now you're going to create a virtual hard drive for your Ubuntu operating system. 8 gigs is actually really small in my opinion, but we'll go ahead and I'll show you guys how to make that change though. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next. For a VDI instance, which you want to dynamically allow it because you can change it later on. Next. And now we're going to set the size of the hard drive. I personally actually want to give this thing 14 gigs of space because I want to install some more software on it, show you guys how to use it, so I'm going to give it 14 gigs of space. Again, you can make changes on the fly and add more hard drives, add more space later on if need be. So I'll go ahead and click Create, and now it created my operating system. You can also make changes on the fly when it's powered off in settings here, guys. You can change the name of it. You can change where your snapshots are, give it a description. Your system, again, if let's say I think 4 gigs is too much, I can always go down and give it less RAM or more RAM on the fly when it's off. You can also, I have 8-core CPU, I have i7, so I can actually give this thing 2 CPUs to increase its performance. So I'm going to go ahead and actually do that. You can also enable the different acceleration, which you want to have both clicked on. That will be automatically done. And your display, you can actually give it more video RAM if you're doing a lot of video rendering. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and leave everything as is here. With the storage, I can go ahead and you can add another hard drive if you run out of space, or even go here and select solid state so it won't defrag. You can modify this. You can remove it on the fly if you want to. But for now, we want to go ahead and set up our ISO. This controller acts as a CD-ROM drive, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this little CD-ROM drive here, guys, and I'm going to go ahead and choose my virtual drive where I have my ISO. I downloaded it here, Ubuntu 13.10 desktop, 64-bit, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I'm going to click on Open, and now it sees the ISO file that we downloaded from the Ubuntu site. It is selected under Storage here. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and now we're going to go ahead and just power this bad boy on. I'm going to go ahead and start it. It's going to open a little box here. You can actually open this full screen if you want as well, but it won't go full screen. You'll notice that you only get half. I'll explain why later after the install is finished. So it's going to go ahead and boot up. We're going to make the screen a little bit bigger. It also captures this little window. It's pretty cool. The machine will tell you exactly what it's doing about capturing the VM. I usually just hit X on these things because I've used it before. So we're not going to try Ubuntu, guys. We're going to click Install Ubuntu. And it's going to tell us the specifications. We have 12 gigs of RAM. That's enough. We're able to connect to the internet. We can go ahead and download the installs when installing and install third-party. I'd recommend clicking both those. But for this video, I'll go ahead and update later. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Continue. And then since we're starting over fresh, we can go ahead and erase the drive and install Ubuntu. So I'm going to go ahead and click Install Now. And I'm actually in California, so Los Angeles time zone will work perfect for me. I will click Next. And I speak English, or at least I try to, so I will click Continue. Who are you? I'm Gotham, bro. But I'm going to change it just to Gotham, bro. And for password, I like to pick just root for now. I know root's bad, but that's going to be what it is. And we'll require a login. I'll have it log me automatically since I'm the only one using it. So the name already exists in there. We'll call it God1 for the computer name. Really? Okay, well. Very cool. I don't care. My email is quad2k@gmail.com. I don't actually have my password on me, so wow, I'll create a new one. Tell us your name and password. I'm going to just choose it root. Okay. I probably should have clicked register later. Oh well. The Ubuntu one is kind of like their application program. It's actually really nice. I'd recommend registering with Ubuntu. They're always looking for people to add in new documents and whatnot. I just got an email from Ubuntu. I will confirm my email. This install is going to take probably about 4 or 5 minutes, guys. So I'd recommend just, if you have an SSD, it's obviously going to go a lot faster. I didn't put this ISO on one of my SSDs. I put it on my normal drive, so it's going to take a little bit longer. You can actually go through the different software that this offers in these little scroll wheels. It won't interrupt your install or break anything. I wouldn't recommend hitting skip. It would just let it retrieve all the files and install everything. The install is not too bad. It's actually pretty fast. You can actually make another VM if you wanted to as well while this one's going. You can run multiple virtual machines, but for now we'll just go ahead and run this install. It's just nice to be able to use, I can use my Windows operating system and I can have my virtual operating system running on the same machine at the same time. And it actually doesn't take up too much resources. If you look at my task manager, I'm barely using 6 gigs of RAM and I'm barely using 21% of my current CPU. It doesn't take up that much processing power. Even the memory is not too bad on the VirtualBox. It uses barely any RAM and just a little bit of the CPU. If you look at the performance monitoring, it's not too bad. A lot of people ask how much RAM, and the big question I get a lot is allocating disk space, RAM, and memory to the VM. And I always tell people it really depends on what you're using it for. If you're just using it for, testing software applications, or just using it for, browsing the internet, or, testing Ubuntu software that doesn't require a lot of RAM, you can go ahead and actually, in the settings, when you turn it off, if you notice when it's on, everything's locked. You can't touch anything when it's on. But if I were to power this off, I don't want to do it because we're installing, you can actually change the base memory on the fly. And you can even add processors on the fly, which is really nice. You don't have to go ahead and create a new VM. You can just add in as needed. So it's a really nice option to have that available. And there's pretty much no limit on the amount of virtual machines you want to make. I can make a 32-bit Ubuntu. I can make a 64-bit Ubuntu. I can make different other Linux flavors. I've ran Fedora. I've ran Puppy Linux, I've ran Red Hat Linux, I've ran CentOS 6, I have a Windows 7, I have a Windows Server, Windows XP on my work machines, which I use all for testing. It's a great tool, it's free, and Oracle really stands behind it. They update it quite a bit actually. Since I've been using it, I think I've updated this year at least 6 times this year. Don't quote me on how often they update, but they do definitely update this program, and it is free to use on your personal computer. And a lot of the Linux and Ubuntu operating systems out there are free to use. And while this is installing, we can actually I'm gonna go ahead and just Google free to use Linux OS. So there's I know Fedora is a really popular, CentOS is really popular, Debon's really popular, Ubuntu, OpenSUSE. These are just a few of the different Linux operating systems that you can run on VirtualBox. So you don't necessarily have to buy another computer or do a multiple boot machine. If you have a powerful machine that can run Oracle VM VirtualBox, you can run different VMs all on the same computer. So if you want to get open, so all you need to do is go to this page and get the ISO file. You don't need the CD-ROM, get the ISO file. I mean the same thing with CentOS. CentOS 6 is their new one that's out. Again, you can go ahead and download that here. Mirrors where to buy. Right now in this video we're talking about Ubuntu, but there's different flavors of Linux that is available out there to install. We got another 10 minutes to install, and this thing kind of long. I think I'm going to speed up the video when I make this on YouTube, guys, because it's taking longer than I thought. Right now we are installing Ubuntu, the world's most free popular OS. Again, we're installing you can also install different versions. This is a 64-bit version, but if let's say I want to install an older version, I could definitely install 12.4 and 1310, both 32 and 64-bit. Those are definitely options you have available. You can either create different VMs if you have enough hard drive space to create that. A lot of times people will ask me is how much hard drive space do VMs need? And that is also a really situational answer. Again, with the system, if you notice, we have in our storage area here, we have our VDI disk that we made. It's only taking up 2 megabytes in actual size. As this installs, I install software, we have up to 14 gigs available. For example, when the machine is off, for instance, I'm just going to create like a new one. I'll go ahead and make an example actually. So let's say that I want to do like a Win 7. I can have Windows 7 32-bit, which I have on my computer as well. And I can actually create that as I'm going, and I can allocate this one with, I don't know, I'll give it like 2 gigs of RAM. Create a new VDI. You don't want to use an existing one because I already have Ubuntu on this VDI, or that's already created, so you definitely want to create a new disk drive, guys. Don't use the same disk drive for VMs unless you want to break stuff. I don't recommend it. Again, dynamically allocate the size. And I'm going to give this one, I know I'm actually just going to use this for testing, so I'll probably only give this one, fully patched Windows 7 almost is 15 gigs in size, which is pretty crazy. I'll give this one about 20 gigs of space. And again, you notice the Ubuntu has the Linux logo, where the Windows will have the Windows logo. You can have different types of operating system. You can fill this whole page up. It goes all the way down to the scroll wheel if you have enough resources. So there's no limit on this software, guys. It's great. It's free. They don't limit you. You're only really limited by your current computer hardware. And if you have a question on what your computer hardware is, if you're running a Windows 7 or Windows XP, you can just go to the little computer icon here and click on Properties. When you click on your Properties, you'll get your system information here. For instance, I actually have a really good computer. I probably have a better computer than most because I'm running an i7, which basically is a quad-core CPU. And I have 12 gigs of RAM, and I have a 64-bit operating system. And I'm running Windows 7 Ultimate 64-bit currently. But let's say I wanted to play with Windows 8 before switching it over. You can absolutely virtualize Windows 8. I have yet to purchase Windows 8, so I couldn't actually show you, but it's very possible. My coworker has, it has a little Windows 8 icon, and you can run Windows 8 from within Oracle VM VirtualBox. It is supported. And again, with the Windows 7, how I was talking about the different options you have available. This is what really makes this tool great, guys, is the different options that has available to the general public for free. You basically, if I have Windows 7, let's say, I actually want to make this a Windows 8. Actually has options again for 64-bit, 8.1, and it also has options for Windows Server. These are just the different Windows. If you bought a license and you have a key, you can definitely license different Windows OSs to do testing on. For example, if you're testing web pages and you need to test, Internet Explorer on Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, you can actually even clone these and have different versions as well. We'll get into that in a little bit when this install is done about cloning VMs, etc. But for this video, I'm just showing you how to install the Ubuntu, kind of going over the different details in Oracle VirtualBox Manager. Again, in advance, you can take snapshots. Snapshots, I'll dive into once this is done. So for example, we can actually talk about snapshots right now. So if I actually want to go ahead and take a snapshot right now, that basically pauses the computer and will save the state. So I can say, oh, I want to do something during the install, and I can always revert back to snapshot. You can take a snapshot and revert. It basically freezes the frame exactly where you're at on the computer, and you can go back. So before you install software, before you do something, it's kind of like a Microsoft steady state where you can revert back to exactly how you left it, like taking a picture. And that does take a little bit of space, but is definitely a really great feature I highly recommend you use. It's great for testing out software, different versions, and just basically playing with things. It's awesome. You can do that by right-clicking and doing it in the top there. I also think that has an option on the side. Probably probably machine or something. No, it has to be done here in the menu. So that's snapshot. The other thing we're going to talk about in the settings in system is you can actually change the boot order that it boots up. So if you have like a network boot or Pixie boot, you can actually press up or down and select that. You can give it more or less RAM when it's off. And again, you can give it more processors, which we talked about. I can give this thing, four processor cores if I want, and also enable the acceleration. And then display, you can give it more. If you're doing like video rendering or like AutoCAD or something like that, you can give your more video RAM, allocate it to the VM itself. And each VM can be different, however you want to set it. You can enable up to 8 monitors. I don't have 8 monitors, but you could enable that many, and enable 3D, etc. for applications like Google Earth. And it also has access for remote display and video capturing. And the video capturing you can enable to save to your local drive or a network drive. Again, with the storage, if this storage is not enough, you can also add more. You can add another SATA controller or SCSI controller and add more hard drive space if needed. See, I can add another hard drive here if I had a SCSI, which I do not. So I'll go ahead and delete that. But here, again, I can go ahead and add another hard drive. So we can go ahead and, so let's say my 20 gigs of Ubuntu or is not enough space. I can create a second drive to save software to when the machine is off. So this is a great option to have available. You can create more hard drive space if needed. So if you find yourself running out of hard drive space, click on storage. You can add it to the current controller. You buy a new controller for your machine, you can add that. You can add more CD-ROM drives, etc. It lets you do as many as you want, as many as you need. And again, the audio, pretty self-explanatory. You can use no audio. I currently use my Intel HD audio. And your network, we haven't dove into that. Basically, if you're a personal user, you're going to want to use NAT, which is going to share your current network connection. It's basically just going to create exact same IP you're currently using. You can set your different adapters. I actually have 2 adapters. I have an Intel adapter and I have a Relicon adapter, I believe. So you can set the different adapter. There's my MAC address if you want to go DDoS me. Go nuts. And you can set multiple network adapters available. So I can set a NAT network, a bridge adapter, an internal, a host adapter, or a generic driver. And they all have different options for different settings. And I can go ahead and refresh new MAC addresses for each one. Easy peasy. But for now, we'll probably just leave advanced down. I'm just going to go ahead and set up for NAT because it will share the network settings over. and we'll be able to go on the internet on my VM. Again, serial ports, if you're using a serial port, not many people use that nowadays. It's pretty old school. Most people, they're going to use a device, they're going to use a USB device. You can absolutely enable your web cameras, USB devices as well. You can add them in here. It's pretty add nudes, filters. Pretty self-explanatory. Shared folders is a great tool if you're using a NAS or a network storage at your home or location. You can actually put ISOs in a central location and share them with people. So it's a great option to have. And these are just the options every single VM has. They're pretty self-explanatory, guys. I would recommend just not really messing with anything unless you need to. The only thing I'd recommend doing is giving yourself enough hard drive space the first time. And then you don't really need to do anything with the video display. You can pretty much set that to like 50, 60. I recommend like 64 megs would be fine. A video RAM, depending on your video drive. And probably, for instance, you wouldn't need 4 processors. You'll probably get by with 1 processor and just leave everything else as is. You don't really need to touch anything. The only thing I would recommend though is definitely getting your network working on NAT. And if you really feel like it, you can do a bridge adapter or all this good stuff and bridge your network adapters, etc. But for today, we're just going to do the NAT, so I'm not going to enable this one. Just enable the one. And then, for instance, if I was doing a Windows, the same thing, I would go over to Settings, I would go to Storage, guys, and I would add my ISO. See, my installation is complete. You must restart. There we go. I'm going to restart this. I'm still installing my Ubuntu. So again, we would go here. You would hit play, choose the file, and I would choose Windows 7. And I would hit OK. Then I go ahead and just start it up. We'll talk about that in another video. I'm going to go ahead and finish with our Ubuntu. Oh, see, this thing's telling me please remove the media we don't need anymore. So actually I can do that on the fly. I think I can. Oh, it's already empty, so we're good. Press enter. We'll press enter. There's no media because I didn't load the media. I just did it one time. If you guys notice, there is no Ubuntu located in the controller. So the CD-ROM drive was automatically emptied. And now we have our Ubuntu desktop. The first thing you're going to want to do in VirtualBox is they have this thing, guys, called Guest Edition CD Image. You're going to want to go ahead and click on that. Just click it one time. It will launch basically a CD-ROM drive here. You're going to want to go ahead and run it. This is basically the tools. I know my password is root. It's going to go ahead and install the VM guest tools. This will allow me to do full screen, rich media. I'll be able to watch YouTube videos. I'll be able to watch stuff like that. So this is going to go ahead and install that on Ubuntu 13.10. All you have to do is, again, like I said, guys, go to Device, insert Guest Edition CD Image, and run it, and let it do its thing. And if you notice, I'm still on my Windows. My Windows is still changing background. I could still use my Windows 7, and I have my Ubuntu on the same operating system at the same time. It is pretty awesome. And if you notice, I'm not really taking up too much system process. I'll go ahead and leave this up just to show you I'm doing both. Okay, almost done. Please press return to close this window. Now that this window is closed, if you notice, I should be able to actually reboot it and go to full screen. I think I have to restart though, I'm pretty sure. Let's see if our NAT worked as well. I believe it did because it's updating software. See, we even have internet. I have the internet on this. I'm running Ubuntu. I can even go to my